Folks, hit the notification button. Hit the notification button, like, share, subscribe. Also, Nino'sCorner.tv. Right now, the General's tent will be the ghost. January 27th at 5 p.m. Then, Ringside with Nino. So you're going to see this ugly mug a few times on Nino'sCorner.tv. Ringside with Nino will be Thursday the 29th at 5 p.m. So I'm doing it Thursday this month, and then we'll probably get back to Wednesdays next month. But you all get the links in your emails, the whole thing. It's only $4, $4.99 to subscribe to Nino'sCorner.tv, folks. It's a hell of a deal. When the lights go out on Amazon, leave an honest review. Also, my mama's book, The Mexican Mix, leave an honest review with that. And folks, while we're waiting for SGANON, get trim. Get skinny again. We've all seen the headlines about Ozempic and similar miracle weight loss shots. But a major 2025 analysis just revealed that people who stop taking these injections regain average of 60% of their weight back in just 1 year. Most of that gain is pure fat, and the muscle lost during that treatment stays gone forever, leaving you with a crashed metabolism and a body that's basically older than when you started. I just see that SG just got on. This is why I take something way better called GLP-1, and I'm obsessed with the results I'm seeing in the mirror. Everybody looks at themselves in the mirror. Everyone does. Everyone looks naked probably. It doesn't use needles to override my system. It uses plant-based clinical studied ingredients like 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗶 to help my body naturally boost its own hunger controlling signals. I get the same fullness and less cravings, but without the prescriptions, scary side effects, or metabolic rebound. The magical supplement supports my weight management goals while protecting my muscles, helping me keep the weight off for good. To celebrate the new year, it currently has a 50% off promotion for GLP-1 Elevate only at Trim with Nino. Plus, every order for a limited time comes with free 60-day satisfaction guaranteed and free accept shipping and subscriptions. Damn! These are getting longer and longer every time I read them. I swear to you. But hey, I believe in it and it works. Folks, if you're a New Year's, what do they call them? New Year's resolutionist, a New Year's resolutionary, or New Year's resolutionist, whatever you want to call it. Don't try killing yourself so much at the gym. I see all these people going to the gym and they're just dropping off. They're already dropping off, and here's why. Take it easy. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. You got to take it easy. You know, don't kill yourself right out of the gate. Take it easy. It's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of people are there trying to squat, put on weights and all this heavy weight, and then I don't see them. You get injuries, you get tired, you get burnt out. Take it easy. Even if I take off, 4 or 5 days, I go back to the gym. I take it easy. I take it light, and then I build back up again. Make working out enjoyable for yourself. Relax. Breathe through the nose, out the mouth. It's about a relaxation process. That's what working out's supposed to be. You know, get rid of the anxiety, unless you're training for a sport or something. Otherwise, go there and enjoy yourself working out. All right, so Nino'sCorner.tv, and I have, this is going to be good. This is going to be so good. Danny Goller, I think his last name is Goller. This guy is running the experiments with DMT and red light lasers to where you can look into another dimension. They have figured this out. It's unbelievable. Now, a lot of you don't understand what ayahuasca is, DMT, the whole thing, but he's really running these scientific experiments, and I'm going to have him on my show to discuss this and what it's like to look into the next dimension. It's going to be insane, insane. Also, I have John Pounders and Dale Comstock coming on talking about the purge. We're going to be doing that today. The purge. Are we living in the purge? Are we living in the Hunger Games right now? I'm going to say, yes, we are. We know that Trump is an operation. We're fighting against this agenda, the globalist agenda, but it's happening. You see people going mad. They're going crazy. We see it. That's all by design. It's all meant to be done. Folks, we're living in the times now where protests are going to keep escalating. Soon you will see bullets flying at ICE agents. I'm going to make a prediction. I like some predictions every now and then. I'm going to make the prediction that you will see mass shootings against ICE. It's coming. It's coming. We see them at schools. Why won't they be against ICE? It's all coming. And I think Trump is waiting on, I think things are kind of contingent on something like that before he makes the big move. So it's not ripe yet, folks. As bad as this looks right now, and I know it looks bad for a lot of people, it's not ripe just yet. No. Remember, this is an operation, and we got to do things right. We can't premature pull the trigger. It's got to be done perfectly. Now, when you understand the agenda, look no further than the Denver airport. The Denver airport has murals. It has murals up, and here's a few of them here. When you go to the Denver airport, they show you what they're going to do right here. Look at the, I think that's a dead soldier there at the bottom wearing the gas mask. The dove is dead. This is them bringing in the New World Order. Notice the rainbow at the top. See the rainbow there? There's the rainbow. Also on the other mural, too. Look at that other one. Alex, fire in the sky. There's another mural. These are at the Denver airport. They're telling you what they want to do. Now, they call this the New World Order Airport, International Airport, but they hide it in the open, what they want to do. Go back to the other one with the soldier. His sword is in the dove. Yeah, he's killing the dove of peace. This is where we're at right now. Once you understand this, it all makes sense. Folks, you don't get ambushed. It's kind of like going into a dark park with your wife and five guys come out. No, 5 guys come out and ambush you and take advantage of your wife right in front of you. And what I'm trying to say is if you know who's out there in the park, like we do, we have the playbook, we know the operation. When you listen to my program, I'm preparing you for what's coming. You're going down the park, you know, there's 5 guys on the park. This guy has a knife. That guy has a gun. This guy's going to try to ambush me first. You know their plan. You get it. And you can fight against it. You can understand what's going to happen. What's the process? You understand the chess moves being played. I don't even know if that made sense right now. I really don't even know that. I don't know what I just said made any sense at all. But I think you all get my drift. All right. So, Bo Pony's coming on. I got Adam coming on with... what the fuck was that? Crowds in demand. Wano Saban's coming back on. The Ghost is coming on. Carrie Cassidy, I better put my nut guard on because she'll be delivering the nut shots. You know that. Carrie Cassidy's coming on talking about disclosure, alien disclosure. And Gene Decode, I'm reaching out to him as well. Also, Craig Lund, Silicone Satan. All of this going on Nino'sCorner.tv. We are the news first, baby. Yeah. Now, regarding 𝗬𝗏𝗏, I want to put this out there. I lay it out for you all to play it. I think he's 2-1 right now, right? That's a pretty good record still. You got to give it to him. He's still ahead. He's still up. He's still got a winning record, but I understand the whole Ukraine-Russian war thing didn't end, but he's sending me texts on negotiations. I don't know. I'm going to bring him back on, and I'll probably do a question and answer for you guys, maybe on Ringside with Nino. I'll do it for Ringside with Nino since a lot of people ask, well, can you at least bring a guest on there? I'll do it this time. I'll do it. I'll bring 𝗬𝗏𝗏 on Ringside with Nino. Ringside with Nino is like $11 a month, so, or $11.99. How do you like that? $11.99. So subscribe to Ringside with Nino, and I'll bring Stuart on, see if he wants to do a Ringside with Nino, and then the General's tent is the Ghost. So with that being said, folks, you might want to turn it down or turn it up because we're about to kick the party off right about now, baby. Yeah. Coming at you live from the apocalypse. Yeah. Let's get started. All right. So I have to do this from my phone because my printer's shit on me and it's broken. I got to go get a new printer. Donations generously accepted, by the way. So could the United States soon announce alien life? I'm not kidding about this. We've all known about this card about to be played, followed by banks crashing to set off a black swan event. Now, I've been told these two will go together. These two will go together. Looks like the deep state has one more, or actually they have multiple, but this is the big one. One more big potential trick up their sleeve for mass hysteria. The alien card could be played. And the Bank of England is being told to prepare for the market crash if the United States announces alien life. This is not a joke. And I've told you time and time again for the last 5 years, this is always coming. A lot of people have told me this. Now, obviously, trying to gauge their precise moves can be exhausting and costly, but we've always known this was one of their last big panic moves. And from what I understand, Trump's getting ready to make a big move himself. So they need to topple that. So when Hillary lost in 2016, she was on record saying, is it time to play the alien card? Do we play the alien card yet? So we know that it's coming. She thought it was going to come in 2016. They were ready for it yet. So I'm not saying a lot of people get a lot of new agers out there, a lot of the MUFON people, hey, you don't believe in aliens. I'm not saying I don't believe in aliens. I don't know what's out there, and neither do you. But I'm just saying that I don't know. I look out at night, I look up in the sky, I see trillions of constellations, and I say, there has to be something out there, obviously. I wouldn't doubt if it's right outside. I wouldn't doubt if they're on the moon. I don't know. I look into the vast infinite universe at night, and I can't help but think that. I can't help think otherwise. I'm just saying that whatever the government tells you, don't buy it. Don't buy it. They're in the business of lies. I'm personally going to be in the lane of deception, of mass deception. That's what I think this is all going to be. I tend to believe this is why they faked the moon landing. Okay, this is why, so they can pull this card out of their ass later. And I think they're getting ready to do it. And that's why the fake moon landing, all of it is so important for such a time as this. Now, I don't know about secret government projects, if they went to the moon, all that. That's up to your discretion. I don't know, folks. I don't know. But perpetuating it till this very day is so they can play the alien card. There's Clinton campaign share. Yeah, there you go. The American people can handle the truth on UFOs. They want to play this card so bad, don't they? They want to play it so bad. Now, regarding the civil unrest and rumors of civil war, it's being said that the Pentagon is readying 1,500 soldiers to possibly deploy to Minneapolis, officials say. The Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, defense officials told the Washington Post late Saturday, after President Donald Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in response to unrest there. So I don't think it's going to happen yet. And I'm going to get SGANON's look on this very soon. But I say don't be surprised if Trump waits for this to get ripened a little bit longer. The military, so you got to understand this is an operation. The military wants the protests, the mayors, and governors more emboldened. They need to be a little bit more emboldened, and they're getting there. You got to let it simmer, let it boil, let it get to that point. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, they're being tracked and traced. They're being tracked and traced right now the same way we tracked and traced all the illegals that came across the border. And Ghost will be going into this. Remember, Ghost told you first on 𝗦𝗏𝐶𝗠𝗏𝗏, he wasn't worried. They're all being tracked and traced. He said they're all being tracked and traced. So that way, when we do the raids, we go get them. Folks, they're doing the same thing now with drones high above the head, facial recognition, the whole skididdle, little daddle, okay? Skididdle, skidaddle, little daddle. I'm fucking crazy. I don't know. Yes, that. I need stronger coffee. I didn't really sleep much last night. I start saying off the wall shit. I don't know what's wrong with me. I have a lot of problems, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out what's going on in my head. I just flew back. I just flew back in town, and I got to say that I was at the airport, and that always messes me up when I'm at the airport. I can't stand being around people. I can't stand it. I met some really cool people on the plane, though. I met this father and son that he was bringing his son to come play at UTEP. Very nice father and son. And I hope this son chooses to play at UTEP. He's going to play for UTEP. I hope he does. Seems like an athletic kid. Pretty crazy how competitive college football is. I didn't really know they were paying the college players now just as much as they're playing the pros. Like not as much, but they're on par to get there. So pretty crazy. So the governors, protesters, and mayors are going to be more emboldened. They're being tracked and traced right now the same way they've tracked and traced all the illegals that came across the border. And Ghost is going to talk about this on 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗏𝗃. It's all about how much incriminating evidence we actually need. Actually, I hate to say it like this, but could it be we're waiting for shots to be fired? See, Trump doesn't want to make a premature move, and I can't wait to get SGANON's opinion on this. I can't wait. He's coming on in just a few seconds, folks. It's coming. He's coming right on. So, how much evidence will we actually need? So, in other words, these protesters, you see them on video already. They're idiots. They're punching, they're kicking, they're pulling down ICE officers, taking them into the crowd. All of these people are going to jail for a very long time. They're not getting away with this. Don Lemon inciting violence, going into churches. There he is right there. Don Lemon is out there. Well, I'm a journalist, but he's antagonizing, doing ambush journalism. Folks, I'm telling you, all of these people are going to pay through their ass as they have been doing. This is chess, not checkers. They're playing. It doesn't matter how cleverly you play checkers if you're playing against someone who's playing chess, baby. Oh, yeah. All right, let's bring on SGANON. SGANON, are you there?
It's quite a setup for a broadcast, Nino. I'm here. Good to be back.
You like it? Got to be entertaining the apocalypse. I've been thinking about this for a while. The Denver airport murals, and I was like, for such a time as this, right, SG? I mean, it's not us doing this; it's us countering their moves. They're the ones doing this, correct?
That's exactly how this entire process has played out, and it could not be more poetic, Nino, in the eyes of Almighty God, if I can just say so, because the very architecture, the very infrastructure, the very scaffolding that they've built to imprison and enslave all of humanity and all of, every single one of us from all around the world, both mentally, spiritually, financially, etc. That same system is now the instrument of their destruction. It is truly incredible to behold.
It's such an exciting time to be alive right now, SG. I mean, we are living in a time right now where we are fighting against just having our horse in the race, Trump, and the people starting to get behind him, the exposure. They never expected this, did they?
Well, not only did they never expect it, but it never once even crossed into their minds as a possibility. There was no contingency plan for we the people actually regaining power again after Eisenhower and Kennedy. There was no need from their pulpit, from their perspective, to concern themselves with such a detail, because they orchestrated and built such a collapsing bureaucratic system of tyranny, especially post 9/11/2001, that I think you had a serious mindset, almost a zeitgeist throughout the entirety of the elitist class around the world, basically reflecting some sort of invincibility feeling, some sort of impunity, the height of hubristic pride, if we can describe it as that. And it literally has become a nonstop sequence of cascading events after we the people did flounce their plan, after we did throw a wrench into the sprockets on their bike. And now we have this cascading situation that has occurred over the last 8 to 10 years, really going back to early 2016, where they make a move and we position things in a certain way to receive that move or to receive the fallout of that move, and we respond accordingly. And there's several punctuated line items in this historic journey over the last 10 years that mark that. The election, obviously, of President Trump in 2016, the 9/11/2016 arrest of Hillary Rodham Clinton, 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗏𝗃 December of 2017. I believe it was December 21st, which makes it the winter equinox of 2017. 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗏𝗃 the day after 9/11 in 2018. And on and on and on. And we could probably spend an entire broadcast hashing out just these different punctuation marks.
I want to really go into detail with that with you on SG on @Nino'sCorner.tv. Are you cool with that right after this segment?
Certainly.
Okay. But okay, go ahead. Finish what you're saying. It's not my bad, folks. I know you want to kick me in the nuts. Go ahead.
Well, not a problem. But as we look at what's happening now, every single time we have one of these punctuated, artifacts of success where we have captured a dramatically important hill, either in the administrative sense, in the kinetic sense, in the business, private sector, financial sense, whatever lens we're talking about. When we capture a hill, some sort of destabilization occurs on the other end. And in that process, what is occurring, Nino? The information space is now wide open, full throttle. So everyone can see these cascading moves and counter moves as they go forward. They can watch the destabilization in real time. And for the first time in American history, they know exactly who is behind it.
But it's a small niche audience, like my audience, like your audience, like 𝗬𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗍𝗏's audience. Like it's a small audience. Most people are reactionary, they're impulsive, and they're emotional. Take the protesters, for example. They're out there screaming. I mean, these people have lost their minds.
Well, it's fascinating that you should bring that up, because that is exactly where I was about to take this. Those individuals out there across the American population space, a great many of whom, by the way, would be useful allies and cooperative agents with us if they had proper understanding and context for the world around them. A great many of them are so engulfed in the mind control programming, especially post-COVID and the things that happened with that, to include pokes and such, that there has to be a significant, a very, very obvious sort of, being slapped around the face by a wet fish, to use to borrow from the British term, right? There has to be such an irrefutable situation happening that is affecting them directly in order to break through that mind control programming. And when we talk about mind control, we're really just talking about warping one's perception emotionally about a particular topic, either ahead of or concurrent with that topic occurring. And that is identical. That is verbatim what we are seeing happening right now with a number of these protesters in Minnesota who are there just because they believe that they're taking care of their neighbors and they're doing right by the democratic principles, but they are laden unknowingly with a significant cellular groups of problem agents who actually do want to destabilize the situation and derail the momentum of the federal government.
So obviously they're waiting for Trump. I think it's premature right now, and I know you probably feel the same way, 𝗪𝗍, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think it's a little premature for Trump, as crazy and out of hand as shit is getting in Minneapolis, and they're getting more emboldened? It's not time just yet for the Insurrection Act, correct?
I've come to actually feel that way as I've watched the events over the last 7 to 10 days, right? President Trump seems to be timing his rhetoric very appropriately. Every few days, we hear something about this Insurrection Act, something about getting this situation in Minnesota under control. And every few days, we have some sort of new event, either centered around Minnesota or out of, one of these other blue states. We saw something out of New Jersey, I think, just today. So looking at that, it seems as though we are very much building towards a significant use of the act in a way that it has not been used before, even though it has been invoked many times by many presidents over the last 125 years. But for the first time, we are talking about marrying the Insurrection Act with a tremendous amount of national emergency infrastructure and architecture that has been created since 2017. And that allows for a dramatic expansion of certain enforcement capabilities on behalf of the U.S. military. When we look at election situations and how that's been defined under national emergencies, when we look at what's actually happening with respect to the funding of terrorism, EO 13224, and how that ties into the current events of the administration today, when we look at the executive orders from last year designating a whole slew of new entities as foreign terrorist organizations or as supportive agents of that, laying out new conditions for what it, quote unquote, means to finance terrorism, to be a part of those activities, we have a dramatically enhanced web that the Insurrection Act will basically give light to. It's sort of like you have this wire mesh netting that you've got set up, and now you're going to plug in the power and turn it into an electrified net. That's sort of the same situation that's developing right now. But if we're going to cast that net, we don't want to cast it at one state. We know that the insurrection issue is in many, many states. At the very minimum, at the absolute minimum, it's in the swing states from the election a few years ago. And so as we look at that, there must be an allowance of time for certain events to happen across many different jurisdictions to show that the civilian authorities across the nation are not able to respond to what is a coordinated nation-state, interstate amount of unrest. And so that has to be allowed to occur. We're cooking the kettle, but we're not there yet.
Right. So we want to draw them all out. We want them to come out of the bowels of hell. We want them all to come out and get more emboldened and one city, I mean, I guess he could do it state by state, right? But we want it to get worse, a lot worse. Folks, it's just, the party's just beginning. But when the military moves in, it's going to be swift and fast, right, SG? So, in other words, let this boil over. Let other states get involved. We got to kind of draw them all out, right? We got to see the whites in their eyes.
That is a very good way to sort of set that up. And I recognize how inverted that sounds for a lot of the audience out there. But if you read Sun Tzu's Art of War, the entire book reads like an indictment of every presupposition that human beings run with from the time we're very young to the time we're very old. If we're going to engage in the art of conflict itself and the art of conflict and confrontation against a foe that has been using that art extremely effectively for hundreds and hundreds of years, we have to throw away some of our suppositions and conceptions that we take about conventional conflict or about what is best for the whole, and understand that we have to improve the system by inverting it and collapsing it first.
Look at Nino, you have serious mental issues. Is that just you're just figuring that out? Wow. All right. So, Bank of England told to prepare. So this was from Colonel Douglas McGregor, but I've been told about that. I'm sure you know about this, SG. Bank of England told to prepare for a market crash if the United States announces alien life. Helen McCaw, who served as a senior analyst in financial security at the UK Central Bank, sounded the alarm. What was the alarm? Macaw. All right. Oh, boy. She has now written to Andrew Bailey, the bank's governor, urging him to organize contingencies for the possibility that the White House may confirm we are not alone in the universe. So if this happens, SG, what are we looking at here? If they do this, this would be the alien card, right?
I think it would absolutely be the opening salvo. You know, we have to keep in mind that disclosure on something as large as the presence of other sentient life, that's going to be a card that will probably have a couple of different stages in the early phases. And I think it's not an accident at all, Nino, that all of the rhetoric entered the space about Greenland right before this particular issue. It's long been rumored that Greenland plays host to an international sort of an interspecies communications array buried in the ice up there. And the reason it's buried in the ice is because of the amount of the geothermal energy that it pulls out of the earth and causes such a superheating situation. Boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, what is he snorting up his nose? I'm like, relax, folks. Just actually, look, the reason I'm happy today is because my dad's having a better day today. So let me just enjoy that my dad and mother are having a better day today. That's why I'm happy. It's been a lot of tough weeks, and he woke up early today in a good mood. So let me enjoy that. Go ahead, Leslie.
Amen, and well said. I was just going to close that segment off by saying there's a reason that the Arctic is of such interest right now over the last several years to every major developed world's military functionality and apparatus. It is because the Arctic plays host to a number of different devices, equipment setups, bases that actually do have regular interaction with interdimensional or extraterrestrial, or however you want to call it, alien life of some sort, life that is sentient, self-aware, capable, technologically advanced, but is not of the same human genome that we are. That's the best way to sort of describe that. And so this particular card would absolutely have to factor into every single downstream event that occurs inside quote-unquote human society. Finance will absolutely respond. Academia will respond. Healthcare will respond almost immediately, probably. Governments and militaries will respond. And if it's not done carefully, you will have some crackpot militaries around the world, probably in more of the developing world areas, that see this as a mortal existential threat to their entire way of life, to their entire existence. And they could run hot off the rails with some advanced weaponry that they've managed to acquire through a number of black market deals over the last 30 or 40 or 50 years. So this is a delicate situation. I'm really amazed that we're approaching and that we're sort of crossing the Rubicon with respect to public narrative regarding how this will affect finance markets. If they're announcing that it's going to affect finance markets from their side of things, then it's absolutely a reality that's going to come shortly rather than later.
I agree with you. I think this is going to be before or around the year now, or 2027 is okay. Prediction time. People always want to kick me in the nuts when I make predictions, but I don't make them. My guests make them. But I'm going to make this one this year or next year, depending on what moves Trump makes, this alien life thing is going to come to the forefront. And I believe, in my mind, and I don't know what you believe, I'm trying to get 𝗬𝗂𝗋𝗋 on my show again because he's really doing a lot of exposing on the giants and how they're in select regions of this planet. The red-haired giant, 6 fingers, 6 toes. Yes, folks, they still exist. Look at the Kandahar giant. The Kandahar giant is a real deal thing. These are the fallen. These are the Nephilim. There is an agenda. You got to understand there is an agenda. And guess what, folks? If giants existed, that throws a big monkey wrench at evolution. Just saying. Just saying. But Pentagon readies 1,500 soldiers to possibly deploy to Minnesota, officials say. The Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, defense officials told the Washington Post. So the soldiers are assigned to 2 infantry battalions with the Army's 11th Airborne Division, which is based in Alaska and specializes in cold weather operations. The Army placed the units on prepared to deploy orders in case violence in Minnesota escalates, officials said, characterizing the move as prudent planning. So it's not clear whether any of them will be sent to the state, the official said, speaking like some others on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive military planning. So I'm with USG. This has to be done at the right time. I think we need to draw the others out. We need to draw them out of the bowels of hell. And this is, to me, this is just starting to cook right now, right, SG? I mean, we're going to see more protests, more civil unrest spread through all the cities, right?
I absolutely think that is, the case. We talked about that just a minute ago, and I want to add a flavor of that to what this article sort of lays out. We have paratroopers from the 11th Airborne being ostensibly placed on readiness for some sort of domestic U.S. deployment. We're told that it could concern Minnesota, but I want to look at what the actual functionality of the paratrooper itself is. A paratrooper is a quick reaction force. A paratrooper often has a background in some sort of special operations capability, though not always. Paratroopers are certainly extremely physically well adept. They're extraordinarily healthy, even by military standards. So they are sort of the tip of the spear, if you will, for the various branches before you start talking about, specialized arenas of command like SOCOM or the United States Marine Corps Force Recon. So paratroopers, I think, is an interesting choice of reveal here when we look at this particular article and it coming out from the mainstream media, because paratroopers would be the type of response agent that you would want to a significant localized threat, but that threat would have to be dramatic in scale and require fast neutralization. In other words, when things sort of get going, there's not a whole lot of time you have to play with before something could really spin out of control. And when I cross-examined that understanding, Nino, of what the role of a paratrooper is in the U.S. military with the situation on the ground in Minneapolis, it strikes me as dramatic overkill. It does not make a great deal of sense that you would want, troops dropping in from the sky and maybe as a show of force to intimidate protesters, but even that seems way excessive. You could accomplish that with just a standard rollout of reserves that are in the region. You could accomplish that with a deployment of 2,500 National Guard, which would be a little bit more, I think, people-friendly in the eyes and minds of the citizenry. So one then has to ask, what threat is really on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota? What threat potentially is on the ground in some of these northern states, because they're cold weather combat trained, and we don't have bona fide confirmation that they're going anywhere yet. We just think that Minnesota is the likely target for that, but maybe not. But regardless, whatever the type of threat is, it strikes me as much more dangerous than a bunch of gaslit ICE protesters, and even some of the moron Antifa and Trans-Tifa that are embedded within that. Paratroopers would respond to a threat like active terrorist weaponry, a foreign state, intelligence operation going on the ground, some sort of bio agent potentially. We have to keep in mind that in 2018 we saw something similar to that right in downtown. It was in California. I think it was in Los Angeles, where they landed literally on top of a hotel, rushed to the building in broad daylight, and told everyone that it was a training operation. We later learned that what was actually removed from that building was a biological contaminant weapon that was intended to be dropped into the water supply of California. So when we look at paratroopers potentially being placed on readiness, it makes me ask the question, Nino, what are we actually responding to here? And I would submit to you that embedded within these protests, really under the cover of the fog of war that this instability and destabilization has caused, are serious nation-state level threats that we have to deal with, and they have to be dealt with militarily.
So I'm going to make 2 points here. Well, one, I mean, we got this ambush journalist, Don Lemon, acting like a social justice warrior. You know, he's going to these anti-ICE protests, and he storms into a Minnesota church service with chaotic scenes. So a left-wing mob stormed a Minnesota church to protest immigration and customs enforcement's ICE, stopping services and leaving worshipers furious. Protesters interrupted Sunday service at City's church in St. Paul, angrily demanding ICE out and accusing its senior leader of the church of working with the agency. One demonstrator said they were demanding justice for Renee Good, the 37-year-old Minneapolis mother fatally shot by ICE agent Jonathan Ross earlier that month. This will not stand. They cannot pretend to be a house of God while harboring someone who is commanding ICE agents to terrorize our communities. You know who's terrorizing your communities? The illegal immigrants, folks. The people that are predators, murderers, among other things. That's who you're protecting. That's who you're protecting. Right there. Also, let's not forget this for 1 second. This is a military operation, and you better damn well believe that there's undercover ICE agents in those crowds. I would bet in the thousands, mapping, tracing, and tracking everybody in civilian clothes, listening to everyone's whispers, hearing what they're going to do next, how they're going to do it. That's why this is all taking so long. Spoiler alert, they're tracking and tracing all of you, and then following you when you go home, and then watching and documenting exactly who's punching who's spitting on who's doing what, and they're taking you down. They're taking pictures of you on their phones. Right, SG?
You know, it's very interesting that you should bring that angle up. I've actually had the privilege of having direct contacts at a couple of points over the last 3 years with a counter-terrorist extreme psychological operator. That's the individual's classification and categorization, who is on contract with the Department of, now the Department of War, was formerly the Department of Defense, for exactly the activities that you just described. This individual goes by the code name Joaquin, and they have been doing nothing but mapping, documenting in every sense imaginable, video, audio, etc., using the full force of signals intelligence capability, by the way, much of it supported through what we believe to be Space Force and Space Force adjacent technology and capabilities that have allowed for a tremendous amount of putting together of this equation. And when we talk about mapping, I want to talk a little bit about that. We have a multi-layered situation in the United States of America that has gone on for a number of decades now. When we're mapping problematic actors, when we're mapping foreign threats against the Constitution, we're not just talking about terrorists, although terrorist is the umbrella term for all of that. We're also talking about individuals that have taken oaths to foreign powers. We know certain individuals in both political office and judicial offices around the nation actually have an oath on file that reads to the International Monetary Fund. When we look at the entirety of something like the British Accredited Registry and where those oaths of allegiance actually lie, when we look at something like the lack of oaths on file for a dramatic number of federal government and state government personnel since 2020-2021 timeframe, you know, all of these types of things factor into this quote-unquote terroristic situation that has occurred inside the United States. The sellout is complete. The infiltration is full, it is at scale, it is multi-angular, it is cross-dimensional, it affects every area of society, and we are now witnessing one of those areas becoming very publicly volatile, which is going to break the pressure kegs off several others downstream.
So I'm going to read a couple articles here, SG, and I want your thoughts on this. So Canada's deal with China signals it is serious about the shift from the U.S. Prime Minister Mike Carney, who's openly talked about the New World Order, by the way. His new approach to Canada's foreign policy can perhaps be distilled in one line. We take the world as is, not as we wish it to be. This was his response when asked about the deal struck with China on Friday, despite concerns over its human rights record and nearly a year after he called China the biggest security threat facing Canada. Now they're doing a deal with Canada. The deal will see Canada ease tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles that it imposed in tandem with the U.S. in 2024. In exchange, China will lower retaliatory tariffs on key Canadian agriculture and products. Experts told the BBC the move represents a significant shift in Canada's policy on China, one that is shaped by ongoing uncertainty with the U.S., its largest trade partner. So that's going on, and now Trump coming out and saying he's announced a 10% tariff on Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, Netherlands, and Finland beginning February 1st. This tariff will be increased to 25% beginning on June 1st. Tariffs will remain in effect until the U.S. reaches a deal to buy Greenland. It's time for Denmark to give back, Trump says. So what's your thoughts on Canada and the situation brewing with Greenland?
Well, it's fascinating that we're seeing this done through primarily economic pressure, because in the sense that we're pressuring all of these nation states to comport to some sort of idea of how things are going to progress forward, we are also pressurizing the financial system itself around the entirety of the world. And I would submit to you that that's exactly the same thing happening with the Canadian and Chinese angle on things as it is, because we know that the United States is not going to respond quietly under a Trump administration to the cozying up of, Ottawa to Beijing, and especially considering that we have already interdicted just since last January, 1 year ago, 3 separate Chinese nationals in 3 separate instances, all of which came across the Canadian border, not the Mexican border, and we've essentially caught them trying to smuggle biological agents into the country. So looking at what's happening right now, I think that you're seeing the preservation of Arctic security in real time at the same time that you're seeing the pressurization of finance markets inside these old systems that can't take the heat anymore. You have the Canadian economy, which is dramatically weakened, right? And this situation with moving these tariffs around and opening the markets more to Chinese goods and Chinese influence and participation in activity, all of that is going to meet with dramatic resistance from Canadians on the ground, because it's sort of a marginalization move coming out of Ottawa. But economically, what happens is you continue to trounce an already weakened economy even further. And we know that President Trump has made several statements just since becoming president again in 2024, November of 2024, where he said if Canada became the 51st state, they would also benefit from the economic might and security that the United States marketplace could offer them. And so looking at what we have right now, I think we have the setup, Nino, for some sort of dramatic economic zone blending in the future as a response to the instability of what's happening just north of our border. And that is in the inherent interest of not just the Americas, but the entirety of the world, because it allows the U.S. military direct, authoritative, and legal access to and the ability to participate with any Arctic situation that happens to be going on inside the Canadian Arctic. And we know that there's a lot going on up there because of the number of NASA sites that we can see up there just from NASA's own website.
Folks, someone put in here, this is so depressing. It's not depressing. This is the most exciting time to be alive. You just have to be made for such a time as this. All right. So U.S. Air Authority warns of military activities over Mexico and Central America. U.S. aviation authorities issued notices Friday warning airlines to exercise caution in the airspace over Mexico and Central America due to military activities. The Federal Aviation Administration posted a series of messages cautioning about a potential hazardous situation, citing the chance for interference to the global navigation satellite system. So 𝗬𝗏 came on 𝗦icicorner.tv yesterday. I think I put it up yesterday, talking about what's happening in Mexico. The deal they can't refuse. If you haven't watched it, check it out. The deal they can't refuse. What's going to happen in Mexico? And folks, I'm here on the border, so I'm watching this very closely. SG, now that we've taken down Maduro, we got Maduro in our possession. He's probably, who knows what kind of confessions he's making. Obviously, we know that's going to lead to Smartmatic Dominion, the whole thing. It's going to cascade. It's going to have a cascading effect to the cartels in Mexico, Colombia, Cuba. We could see a Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. What's your thoughts on how we handle Mexico from here? Mexico, obviously, 𝗬𝗂_𝗯𝗶 has been implanted. She's obviously, controlled. What's your thoughts on Mexico? How do we go about it from here?
Well, it's interesting. I think President Trump has basically told us what is going to come down the pike with respect to Mexico. If the Mexican government refuses to allow the U.S. military and the U.S. apparatus to participate in a diplomatic fashion and in sort of a joint partner coordination fashion with the destruction of the cartels, then we will be exercising some amount of Monroe Doctrine style activities, much like what was just done in Caracas, to take these cartels out ourselves. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing prepared right now with respect to the airspace, because I think it's preparing airstrikes. And it makes a lot of sense that you would interrupt certain communication equipment, certain navigable equipment, certain electronic capabilities inside the electronic domain before some sort of kinetic on-the-ground activity, even if that activity happens to be coming from, 2,500 feet up or 1,000 feet, whatever the bombing run happens to look like. But with respect to the broader picture here, I think what this is going to cause is a fundamental outcry from the Mexican population, the Mexican people, to do business with the United States in a way that is appropriate for and beneficial for their entire state, right? You have yet again another rump state situation in the form of Mexico, a sort of drug run cartel state, not unlike Colombia or Panama just a few decades ago have been, and Colombia even to the present day. And so when we look at the political apparatus inside these states, there's not a whole lot of functionality that's actually there. It is primarily the cartel operation and the cartel control of various state provincial areas that puts enough pressure on any sort of centralized government, along with most local and state level law enforcement agencies, that the country itself cannot really function as a dedicated country. Even the military, in many regards, has overlap between these black markets, criminal syndicates, and the actual legitimate activities of a militarized force. And so when we look at what gives lifeblood to that, what sustains that type of apparatus, it's obviously criminality. It's obviously the black market that runs the entirety of the Western Hemisphere underground. But how is that fed? Well, it's fed through the activities primarily of the intelligence community, both on the ground in this hemisphere and on the ground elsewhere around the world. Because when you destabilize the rock at junction level B, the rock at junction level Q is going to be falling a little bit further down, right? Everything moves downstream from there. It's a fluid world that we live in. By interrupting that process, I'm going somewhere with this just for the audience.
I'm listening intently, bro. Go ahead.
By interrupting that process and attacking these cartel operations in Mexico, and President Trump has said a number of times that is going to occur if we can't get any forward progress from the Mexican government. In other words, publicly visible movement forward on assistance with that particular arena, then that deals a dramatic destabilization blow to the underpinning infrastructure that enabled the cartels in the first place. And that's the channels that the intelligence community, that the various criminal organizations around the world, many of whom are state actors sponsored, like Beijing, Tehran, Pyongyang in some arenas and in some regards, those groups will now be nakedly open because there is no longer a political front cover running for them inside the country. And if you have a number of law enforcement officers, and this is actively happening right now in Venezuela, this is why I want to bring this up. If you have a number of law enforcement officers who have now been essentially liberated from the shackles that hold them bureaucratically from up the chain, and they are now able and equipped and capable of responding to a situation freely without reprise from some sort of cartel against their family or from some sort of elected official in their state capital or in the federal capital, what then happens to all of the useful idiots that made the kidnapping, the drug running, the gun smuggling, the gun running? What happens to them as a result of that? And when they made those things possible, what's going to occur is they're going to be interdicted and they're going to begin flipping on each other like mackerels in a dish. This is going to be a phenomenally exciting time that ultimately will cause regime change peacefully inside of Mexico City, because the government will be forced to respond to the actual problem on the ground, which has been there, by the way, since 1841.
All right, let's take some super chats. Let's get some super chats in here real quick, and then I'm going to read what the fuck news. SG, stick with me. SG, can we do a back channel segment real quick after this?
Certainly.
Okay. 𝗀𝗃𝗃 576 super sticker. Thank you very much. 𝗀𝗃𝗃, again, you're a rock star. Thank you. Super sticker. Thank you very much. Boom Howard 89. Thank you so much for the. Thank you. Doc Ride, psyops within psyops. We need Sancho in times such as these. Sancho will beat them all with a flight swatter. 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗍𝗂, thank you so much for the super sticker. Rhonda Peterson, I love me some Nino. Prayers for you and your parents. Thank you. Hello to Alex too. Thank you so much. Yeah, my dad and my mom are having a good day today, so I'm just soaking it up. Thanks for Susanna Wenzel. Thank you all for the info on the guest and guest. You know what about the Danish troops arriving in Greenland? Try all you want. Ain't gonna matter. Just look at the weapons we use on the Venezuelans. Yeah, there's just what we have, folks. Remember, Trump said it's his own morality. It's his own morality withholding him from making the next few moves. So it's got to be right. Things have just got to be just right. Thank you for speaking the truth, Julian Dukes. Thank you so much, Juliana. Dennis Burrows, super sticker. Thank you, Denise Burrows. Sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you. Tanya Carteries, 5688. Thank you. Jimmy Partridge. Hey, yo. Glad your dad is having a great, yeah, he wants to go to dinner tonight. I can't take him because he can't get out of bed, but, you know, just the fact that he's saying that makes me feel good. So, all right, that's it, and I'm going to read some what the fuck news, SG. A self-deleting pod for couples, yeah. Inventor is nothing like a romantic date. The inventor of the 𝗪𝗀 death capsule reveals how new euthanasia device will see two people end their lives together. How romantic. Romeo and Juliet. In September 2024, a 64-year-old woman became the first human to experience her last moments in a futuristic killing device known as the 𝗪𝗀 pod. Amid a verdant forest in Switzerland's Schaffhausen region, she climbed inside the 3D printed capsule, pressed a button, and took a deep breath before nitrogen flooded the vessel. Wow. The woman lost consciousness and died within a few minutes. But the controversial pod's first death would be its last, at least for now. Swiss police arrived, seized the pod, and arrested the only person present during the death, the late Dr. Florian Willett, co-president of the assisted self-deleted organization of last resort. They also arrested his lawyers and photographer. They had a photographer there who documented the woman's arrival or departure. Anyway, after police ruled out international homicide, all were released, but Philip 𝗦𝗫𝗁, the 𝗪𝗀's Australian-born inventor and pro-euthanasia activist, was startled. He was surprised by what he perceived as the police overzealousness, as well as bogus claims in the media about signs of strangulation on the woman's body, and was advised by his lawyers to remain in the Netherlands until further notice. Anyway, I could go on and on into this article, but I'm not going to because it's long as hell. But here we go, self-deleting pods, and now they're going to be made for couples. And I beg the question, you know, you got to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. I know a lot of people are terminal or sick. I don't know. We can do it to dogs. We can do it to animals. How do you feel about doing it to humans if they want it to be done? A lot of people are in a lot of pain. Folks, just look at the fentanyl addicts out there and all over Skid Row. I mean, they're obviously in a lot of pain. It's their slow way out. You ask these people, and they want to be there. A lot of them are choosing to be on Skid Row. They have hurt backs, hurt knees, hurt bodies. They can't get the pharmaceutical companies or the doctors to give them anything anymore. They get hooked. Folks, I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't judge on this one. I don't judge on this one because you don't know how much pain someone's in. I don't know. Is it humane, inhumane? Give me your thoughts. You all let me know. All right, folks, I will be going with SGANON to the back channel, ninoscorner.tv, right now to finish this up, wrap it up, and we'll go into more depth there. Thank for all you do. Yay for your parents. Great day. Kelly Ray, thank you so much. Thank you, Kelly Ray. All right, SG, stay with me just for a second. All right, folks, we are